What's going on, everybody? Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope you all are so excited to receive the best hour you have ever received in your entire life. Why? Because this hour has it all, baby. Hope, positivity, inspiration, motivation, empowerment, encouragement, the whole nine. So I hope you are excited. Get ready, pull up a chair, pull up a couple of shots, let your hair down, kick your shoes off, and catch the great energy that is in this room, because it is all dedicated for you, baby. Let's go. Woo!
Hey, listen up, y'all. I'm gonna shout out this young gun right here because he's trying to do his thing. Joseph JAFFE, not famous. Probably rightfully so. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm famous because, he not famous. And he like, yo, let me call my famous friends and see if they'll shout me out and make me more famous, sir. Right? But so, Joseph JAFFE, man, it's cool. You got your late night talk show popping off. That's what's dope. Streaming, been doing your thing, man. Started this in March of the 2020, which is tough throughout the years, but booking great guests, man. Jamal Mashboard and James Rollins, steady building it, man. Keep it popping off, man. Keep building your brand, man. Believe in yourself. Keep going hard. All right, that's what it's all about. One of these days, this little acronym of yours, not famous, is not going to be true. People going to see you in the mall and be like, I know who you is. Them going to be your cousins saying it all incorrect like that. But you know what I'm saying? You know what you going to do. What you going to do? They family. All right, bro. I'll holler.
When it comes to chicken, I'm your guy.
Blinking.
I'll have what Joseph has.
Look, somebody's talking about you.
This is what we call the voice of God.
Popping.
Everybody just gets to focus on you.
Grab me.
Probably not the best thing for an introvert.
I'm asking for you.
Well, I like a good chicken sandwich.
Touch me. Hi, David. Comment.
Oh my God.
Like.
You're actually an identical twin.
Push.
Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be an identical twin.
Pick me up.
No, you didn't.
Shouting.
Surprise! Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text.
There's an edit for your new opening, Joseph.
I feel really honored to have been here, man.
By the way, you've done a masterful job. Seriously.
And it was such a joy.
Thanks, Joseph. It's an honor.
Good on you. This was a pleasure.
I mean, you are the prime example of how to pivot in this new environment.
I wish everybody gets an opportunity to interact with Joseph JAFFE.
Who needs Cameo when I've got my own personal Cameo? Ooh, so soft. Why so soft? Why so subtle? Because it's 9 o'clock at night. Some people, it's past their bedtime, but not us. Not when we are live in this streaming era. It is time for another episode of Joseph JAFFE is Not Famous, but my next guests are not just famous, they're very, very famous. But I actually want to slow it down just a little bit and talk about something that I did earlier today. I did a special episode of my show to pay tribute to a friend of mine by the name of John Durham. John passed away a couple weeks ago, and he was a mentor, he was a friend, he was a father figure to me. Just an amazing, beautiful, beautiful man. May his memory be a blessing. And one thing that I did was I went back to the time that he was on this show, and I found the 1 minute clip. I always create a 1 minute clip, as I'll do tonight with my guest Rachel DeAlto. And this was the clip, and I just wanted to play it for you. The mind of man, his brain and nerves are a truer index of his age than the calendar. If you would keep young, be cheerful, keep working, and love one another. A man is not old until regrets take the place of dreams. Do you have any regrets?
I spend absolutely no time. I think, regrets is what an incredible waste of energy. Because number one, the shoulda, coulda, woulda game, why do you want to play it? You only get yourself stressed out. I wonder sometimes, did I make the right choices? What if? But I didn't. I don't spend time thinking about it. It's just not worth it because you can't change it. Just a couple of people that I read, one of which is Thomas Wolfe, and his novel, You Can't Go Home Again, is so true. You can't go home. At some point, you can't.
John Durham, rest in peace. We will miss you, and we will always, always remember you as well. I did say on the show earlier that I do have one regret, which is I didn't speak to him just one more time. I just wish that I'd had one more moment with him. And we all wish that in the moment, which is why it is so important for us to seize every single moment, every single minute, every opportunity to be around our loved ones, to be around people that inspire us, that build us up, and that reinforce us and feed us and nurture us. So let's get on with the show. Last night, I just have so many philosophers on the show. Oleg Konovalov, what a brilliant, brilliant man talking about vision. He said the only thing, vision is the only certain thing in an uncertain world. Just profound insights from him. And you should go watch that because it just really, really inspired me. As tonight, my guest, Rachel DeAlto, will inspire you. She is a relationship expert, and God knows I need help on so many levels. So I might just lie down on a couch and just listen to her and learn from her as well. But she's so much more than that, and we'll talk about her brilliant, brilliant new book. And then after Rachel, Lady Obsidian Rain will rain down on us, and we will be blessed and privileged to hear some poetry from her. I want to remind you that, every night, as long as you are watching the show live, you make money. In fact, you make JAFFE coin. That, if you look up over there, that QR code, point your phone at it. It is live as long as the show is live, so between 9 and 10. And if you follow the instructions, and they're quite intuitive, you'll receive some JAFFE coin. In fact, every single night when the show is live, I'm giving away JAFFE coin. And that is a small thing, a small expression of gratitude that I can express to you. Well, now it's time to get into our seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today, surprise, surprise, connected to my guest. And I just hope that I do her and I do the subject justice. It is called Relatable. What makes someone relatable? This might be one of the most important questions in the world. Not exaggerating here, and I'm sure my guest tonight would agree with me too. And no, Rachel, I don't say this to all of my guests. Putting the metaverse aside for the moment, a good portion of our day-to-day involves interacting with others, either one-on-one or one-to-many, being liked, being acknowledged, being validated, being chosen are core to our very essence. And make no mistake, it's awesome to make a connection with others. It's even better when they make the first move. Now, on the flip side, it's awful when we miss a connection, when we strike out, when we fall short of the mark. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This is one of my biggest insecurities, even to this day. I guess I get in my own head, and probably with good reason. I'm high maintenance, and as much as I'd like to tell you that I'm worth it, maybe I'm not. I guess I'm a little more self-aware than I used to be, so at least I'm on the right path or heading in the right direction. There's no question that empathy lives in the heart of this relatable engine, and with it, the ability to listen, to hear, to take the time to understand, to get to know, to put the other person first. Sounds easier than it's done, but it's not. That's why I don't prepare questions for my guests. And it's not because I'm lazy. I might not get to ask them that burning question that gets me on Greg Gutfield's show on Fox News, like my interview with Dr. Robin DiAngelo did. Sure, it means I might not have been on top of my game that night, maybe this night. But then again, if my guest truly enjoyed their time with me, and often I hear the same bit of feedback, and the key word is fun, perhaps I was a little more relatable than I gave myself credit for. So that's my message to you tonight. For me, being relatable is all about right here, right now, being in the moment, having a moment, savoring that moment. What comes next, what comes after, is what was meant to. If it's positive, well, that's a bonus. And if it's not, just get back to the drawing board. And I really hope that you can relate to that. Well, now you get to relate to Rachel DeAlto. Rachel DeAlto is a relationship expert, a media personality and speaker. She is the author of Relatable, How to Connect with Anyone, Anywhere, even if it scares you. Rachel has appeared as a relationship expert on Lifetime's Married at First Sight and TLC's Kate and Date. Rachel DeAlto maintains a law degree and a master's in psychology. In addition to her regular appearances, Rachel has been featured on over 200 national media outlets. She's also given 3 TEDx talks, including Being Authentic in a Filtered World, which is featured on TED.com. I cannot wait, and I don't have to wait any longer. Let's welcome her on the show. Rachel, welcome to Not Famous.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy that you are here. Bob Wellheim, previous guest, says, "Hi, Joe. Happy to see you well and energized." And Glenn is here, and he said, "Bought more of your coinage." Well, thank you so much for buying some of the JAFFE coin, and I hope you will buy some ADHD coin, because you will hear from Fanzo a little bit later in the show. But Rachel, you come highly, highly recommended. People love you. They love everything about you. And it's not just because you're a relationship expert. It's not because you're guest number 302. It's for many things. And here's one of the reasons. Maybe today is Happy Perpetual Youth Day. So I'm guessing that you are forever young and very youthful in heart and in spirit.
I hope so. I mean, I I feel like I'm aging rapidly, but I think my mental state keeps me young. I'm going to be perpetually 13 in at least my humor. So
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, there's no one more immature than myself. But
perfect.
but let me ask you this question. I mean, and you know, we will ADHD ourselves around the very different topics. But from a relationship standpoint, whether it's a business relationship, a personal relationship, how important is it, in fact, to be perpetually young, to not grow old, literally, or maybe I should say figuratively, which I guess represents even symbolically the concept of becoming stale and taking that for granted?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I think those are really those elements of age that are problematic when it comes to connecting with people, and being open is definitely something that we have oftentimes when we're young, and people ask often, how do I make friends as an adult? And we've made it so hard from the days where we would just go up to someone in the sandbox, and not the figurative sandbox, but the literal sandbox, and say hi and say, you're my friend. And we've made it so much more difficult with age, because fear comes in, and we become set in our ways, and our perspective changes, and we become more unilaterally focused. So there's so many elements where I think staying perpetually young will serve us well in pretty much every area of life.
It's so funny that you mention fear, and obviously, fear is a big part of the book. But it's an interesting concept that when we are, there's so many things that we have and that we do when we're kids, whether it's creativity, whether it's fear itself. But it just hit me as you were talking that that's one of the things that does come naturally to kids, is they just walk up to a stranger. And, even when you go on vacation, your kids like make friends instantaneously, and we flying all the time, the last thing we want is a chatterbox next to us. We're not interested in actually trying to get to know a stranger.
No, we aren't. I think, we put on our headphones, we turn the other way, and we don't open ourselves up to those possibilities. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone says, I don't need any more friends. I'm done with friends." And I think to myself, how many times, and I've met new people, how many iterations of friendships I've had, as I've grown as a human, and how closed off you could be and what you're missing out on when you're not being open to possibly meeting new people and seeing what they bring to your life. I think it's just a disservice to your humanity and your evolution.
I have to tell you that I am, I'm guilty. I've said that phrase. I've said I don't need any more friends. My best friends are my best friends for life. And then I think about someone like John Durham, and I think about how I called him my friend, but I could have been a better friend to him, and I could have made use of our friendship. I also think on the flip side, we use the word, especially in business, friend very liberally. We call people friends that we've just met, or that that we just know very superficially. And I almost feel, just listening to you, that you need to earn the right to call someone a friend. You have to work at it.
You do, although I think the alternative is a little cold too. Say, no, they're just an acquaintance. So I think the reason why we call everybody friends is probably with good spirits attached to it. But in terms of what actually constitutes a friend and who
Yeah.
deserves that label and that energy, I think that's why most people say I don't need any more friends, is because they don't have the energy to invest into an actual friendship. So we have many acquaintances that we probably mislabel, because those people are not the ones that you're going to call when something's wrong, call when something's good, invite to life events. And so, it's really categorizing them in a different way and understanding your bandwidth, but also expanding that bandwidth when there's potential for something great.
I swear to you that I'm not just saying this. I am going to make a concerted effort in 2022 to, first of all, not use the word liberally, but more importantly, to work at it. And I think that's exactly right. When you say I don't need any more friends, completely, untrue. We can never have enough friends, but we need to work at it, and we need to be able to put in the effort. One person that I call a friend is Fanzo, the person
Same.
that is our common thread, the connector, and I don't use the phrase friend liberally with him, because I think that he has been a friend to me, and I've been a friend to him, and we've helped each other, and we're there for each other, and I think that, and we've put in the effort and the energy, to your point, and I think, and it's only keeps getting better. And so, normally I bring in our correspondent a little bit later, but they send in video clips, and I thought maybe what we'll do is hear what he has to say about, I don't know, NFTs, crypto. So we'll watch his video, and then we'll get on with the show. So this is Fanzo sending in his clip on NFTs, crypto, Web3, creator coins, NFTs, whatever is on his mind. Fanzo, take it away.
What's up, friends? Brian Fanzo here. Well, actually, what's up, Rachel? How are you? If Rachel was going to stay up past her bedtime, I figured I had to stay up past my bedtime and join in live. So I appreciate the kind words of both of you, and it's so cool to see you guys.
I'm still waiting for the video to stop. I was like, oh my God, it's
wait,
really
hold
live.
on a second. Is this live? Is this live? I'm playing a video clip.
Stop. Oh, and who are you talking about bedtime? You don't sleep.
Well, it was past your bedtime, so I figured why not show up just to
sure.
Support past your bedtime.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
All right, Fanzo. So are you actually going to give us a vignette? Is there anything going on in the world, in the world of crypto, NFTs? Has anything happened in the last 24 minutes, let alone 24 hours?
Yeah, that's no doubt about that, right? We had the Matrix launch happen today, or it kind of didn't happen today. It was more like Groundhog Day because there were some tech issues. But I mentioned Rachel as a good friend, and I've actually relatability is something that I've been preaching that I believe is like the future of marketing, and I think it's that important. I believe it is the key essential today, and I will tell you, in this NFT, crypto, metaverse space, I think there's a lot of people that are looking at this saying that we're going to behind the internet, or we're going to be too much, on our devices or our phones. And I think we already probably are on our devices a little too much. But I would actually argue that our ability to be relatable will only increase in its importance as we move into the metaverse, because we're not only being able to use avatars for our profile photos, but we're able to find unique ways and some new ways to express ourselves, put ourselves out there. Like, I actually think my picture my current avatar on Twitter probably represents more of me than just a selfie of who I am. And I think as we think about that, as we think about this, digital Web3 future with, transparency no longer being negotiable, and the importance of us moving to this decentralized world, I think the beauty of that is it's going to enable those who are actually relatable, get yourself a copy, that if you are relatable, your ability to not only succeed in this metaverse world, but also your ability to lean in to your own creativity will make for a lot of success. So that's what I got for that. I love both of you guys. I'm really proud to call both of you a friend. And yeah, metaverse, it's a wild time.
You're the best.
Yeah, that was awesome. And in fact, that, even though I don't prepare questions, there was something on my mind, which we'll ask you a little bit later, Rachel, which is to talk about how we create the context, how we create the emotions, how we create the connection when we are expressing ourselves through profile pics, through avatars, and we aren't face to face, because it's been challenging enough to move from in-person to Zoom, to this thumbnail infested, screen, one-dimensional screen. And now, as the metaverse dawns on us, how will relatability be impacted and changed?
Yeah, there's a huge impact there. You want me to answer that now, or are we waiting for later on that one?
I say answer it, because answer it now, because Fanzo will critique you.
Awesome. No, I'm taking notes.
No, and I think that, well, it's such an interesting thing, because the beauty of it, and I've learned so much from Fanzo. Everybody needs to listen to his podcast. But just learning about NFTs and learning about the metaverse and just the communities that are being built around all of this is where it becomes interesting, because community allows you the ability to be relatable, and through that to be yourself and to be all the versions of yourself and to show up without these masks and filters. Yes, we're using avatars, but there's also a way to just really start building those real connections with people. And I think the important thing is there's two things. One is really paying attention to how you show up digitally. And that's something that it doesn't matter what platform you're talking about, whether you're on a more traditional social media platform or you're engaging in something in the virtual world, is showing up in a way where you are not attaching your worth to likes, comments, to feedback from other people, because that's where the detriment really happens. And that's where we end up starting to pull back from who we really are, because we find that a facade is what gets a better response. And so it's really important to just change the way that we show up, but also be very careful about how you are putting yourself out there and showing up authentically. And Fanzo and I have had conversations about this before. It's not just one version of you. You can have so many different versions of yourself, but when it's not real. When you're putting a facade on, when you're pretending to be someone you're not. And that's where, if you really want connection, if you really want community, if you really want to engage in a way that, regardless of whether you're showing up as an avatar or as a human being in real life, that you're showing up in a way that feels like you are in your own skin.
Love it. Love it. And I will give you the applause. I'm also giving you the applause, Fanzo. That was amazing. Fanzo, grab a drink in the green room and watch the rest of the show. And tomorrow you'll be back on the show, except this time it won't be live, but it will still be ever as compelling and relevant and inspiring. So thank you, Fanzo.
Thank you guys. Yeah. And, I will say Rachel's advice, I might be single at the moment and might be one that I listen to maybe the TikToks from a personal relationship side. I think those elements of connection and community, we would all can make the argument that right now they couldn't be more important. So big fan. Love you both. Cheers.
Love you.
Cheers. Cheers. And Kevin Sturmer says, wash hands, wash hands, wash hands. And let me do my Kevin Sturmer impersonation. Do your own damn research. So there you go. That might make the highlight reel for one of the new shows. Bye, Fanzo.
Cheers.
Bye.
Can't believe he just completely hijacked our show. Unbelievable.
I love it.
So selfish of him. But you said something so amazing there about this idea of mosques, right? And the reality is that we can look at an avatar and we can look at an NFT as our profile picture as a mosque. But the reality is every single day in this IRL, human form, we are wearing masks. We are hiding behind pretense. We are creating bravado and hubris. And you just said it best, which is when you're being authentic or inauthentic. You don't have to. It's like when somebody says, "Can I swear?" You probably shouldn't. If there's any doubt, it's probably time to kind of look within.
Absolutely. I mean, as you were saying that, I was like, I put on mascara today. I brushed my hair. If I was really being truly like at the salt of my earth of authenticity, I don't even think I've ever said that before. I'm not sure what that actually means. That's what happens when you have me up past my bedtime. Oh my God, I can't talk. But when you break
Don't
it down,
say dead time. I mean that because that is the kiss of death in the streaming era. You don't want any dead time.
No dead time. But yeah, so I'm just saying who I am, if I'm really being my most authentic self, I'm a hot mess. I have my hair in a ponytail. I have a hoodie on and I haven't washed my face in like 3 days. So even this, I do TV, or if I do a speaking engagement, I have to put a certain level of a mask on to be engaged with in this environment. So even that, but there's definitely a level where we have to check ourselves and say, okay, we've gone past where this is really kind of aligning with who we are as a human being.
Well, listen, I'm going to put you to the test to kind of see how you perform under pressure, because the reality is that you are not performing 2 poems today. You're actually going to be performing 3 poems. So, you're going to one-up the creator. No, I'm just kidding. But we went out and we found some fun facts about you. I'm not done with you yet.
Oh no, I was like, no, lady needs to come in. Lady Obsidian Rain.
Yeah.
Come say some
and you were thinking, what could he possibly know about me? And the reality is, what we found out is that you sleepwalk when you're stressed. So now we know when the masks are on and the hair is in a ponytail. And I thought long and hard about this, which is I don't want to stress you by highlighting the fact that you are severely arachnophobic. So I will show this very, very quickly.
Oh, no, I can't.
Very, very quickly.
Oh,
and then I do not want you to sleepwalk. There are no more surprises. It's not real. It's very bad Photoshop. But how do you deal with, with insecurity? How do you deal with anxiety? How do you deal with all of this? Because that's part of the relatable, I would think, a challenge, which is you go in, you try and put your authentic self out there, but you're dealing with all of this, these forces and noise and imposter syndrome. How do you drown out and separate yourself from all this noise and and destructive force?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that you're never going to be able to completely drown out everything. And whoever thinks that they're just going to snap their fingers or do, whatever the work is to get to a point where you don't care, you're so confident that you have no insecurities. That doesn't happen. We all have them. And there's no one that I've ever met that has gotten to that other side of, just fully confident at all times. And what I find to be the most effective is awareness. Awareness is key to life, being aware of your thoughts, being aware of when you start to go down that slippery slope. And so for me, I call it a negative thought tornado. You don't want to get trapped in that because it's so hard to get out of. And so if you find yourself starting to slip into anxiety, if you find yourself starting to slip into, negative thoughts about yourself, for me, I've always, and I've been very open about this and in the book of self-esteem around image. And it's so cliche for pretty much every woman in America that grew up during the Kate Moss eras. We've always had these body image challenges. And so like even Thanksgiving, I pretty much made it my job to eat a pie, which I don't regret. But then the next day I was like, oh, why would you do that? And you're gonna gain weight and you're gonna feel uncomfortable and your jeans are gonna be tighter. And all of these thoughts go into your head and they're going to happen. And I don't think anyone ever gets to the other side of that completely, but it's what do you do with it when you start to feel that happening? And so my process is what I practice, what I preach of taking a minute, recognizing that this is not the end of the world. These are fleeting thoughts that get corrected, and I'm able to correct them and recognize that even though I might be a little frustrated with the fact that I couldn't put the fork down because it was really good, that's okay. And I'm beautiful the way I am. And I can start to really course correct those thought processes myself. And that's really from, again, that self-awareness. And that's the key to just staying on track. It's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to self-talk and just that spiral.
And the best part of eating the pie is what you didn't say is that it was without hands. So it was you expert pie eating competition. So that was amazing too. But you speak about so many important things, and I know that about maybe it's funny in the last year and a half when we've all been going through so much change and torment and challenges. I used to allow the smallest thing to get me down, like really get me down, and it might be just getting on the scale in the morning. I've struggled with weight my whole life, and now it's almost it just deflects off me. It just deflects off me. I still feel it. I still get it, but it doesn't penetrate. It bounces. It doesn't penetrate anymore. And I don't know whether that's resilience, and I don't know what it is, but it has allowed me to be so much happier, but also to focus on the things that require more energy. And to your point earlier, nothing is more important that requires the most of our energy than relationships with people.
100%. And I do believe that we've had a reprioritization in the last year and a half. And so oftentimes, when we look at things that have shifted in terms of our perspective, in terms of our mindset, it's because we saw the alternative that could be out there. And we're able to really prioritize. Often in the last year and a half, I've seen really relationships have become so important. You saw people who were so desperate to see someone they loved. You saw people who were so desperate to get back to a normalcy of connecting with colleagues, connecting with friends. And so there is that's so much more important perspective than all of the little things that used to bother all of us. And I think we all have a list of things, and it doesn't mean that it's not going to bother you at all. It just has taken a different place in that triangle of needs.
I want to get into your book in a moment, but first I'm going to show the quote of the episode, and this is the one that I picked for you. Sometimes you can have a reputation for not being relatable and nice because you had a bad day once, and this is actually James Corden, and I thought it was interesting because he's a celebrity. He had a bad day. He's human. And it can you can become known for an anomaly or an exception as opposed to a norm. It seems tremendously unfair, too much pressure to always have to bring your A game and never slip up and never mess up and never be grouchy or crabby or whatever. What advice would you give James Corden in terms of how to deal with the pressure of just being human?
You know, I say something often, which is stop using sample sizes of one. If a research project took on a sample size of one and said, this is the outcome of just dealing with one instance, one person, one circumstance, all of the results would be null and void. So reminding people and James that they used a sample size of one. If they looked at him as a whole, then you're not going to see him being unkind on a regular basis. I mean, I don't know him, but I'm assuming from what I've seen of him, he seems like a lovely human being for the most part. And everybody has the opportunity to fall. And that's what makes us human. And the worst thing that we can do is beat ourselves up for mistakes that happen, because there wouldn't be a humanity if we were perfect. We are not meant to be bots. We're not meant to be replaced by AI. There's a beauty in imperfection. And, you know, people who judge that are pretty much dealing with their own issues. I say, you know, there's a whole, we could talk for a while on projection and just how our own insecurities really do play out in the way that we judge other people, but we never have to take those judgments upon ourselves.
Well, this is the time of the show where we turn the entire show into a relatable menagerie, a plethora of celebration of you and your book. To remind people not just to walk, but to run, or, you know, just to type very quickly. It is, well, it's Giving Tuesday, but it was Cyber Monday yesterday. To go out and buy this book, buy Relatable, How to Connect with Anyone, Anywhere, even if it scares the crap out. No, that it's not called that. Even if it scares you, go and buy the book. I even decided that you would sponsor the show. So up in the top right is a little logo of your book as well. I have many questions to ask you about the book, but one of them is I love design, I love words, I love wordplay, and I noticed that you've chosen to highlight and call out the word able in Relatable. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So the book came after I was doing the keynote for a while, and that's where the whole concept. I started doing the Relatable keynote, and I wanted to see able separated. And so when I went and took it to a publisher, and they were like, well, why are you doing that? And my whole reasoning behind that is I want that focus on the ability, because we are able to relate. We are able to do this, and everyone is able. Because I think oftentimes a lot of the things that I talk about, and part of the reason why I wrote it, is because social anxiety is real. Lack of confidence is real. Lack of self-worth, lack of, you know, that feeling of ability is real. But I believe that everyone is able.
By the way, I have to say, it's fantastic. This is the first time we've had a creator sitting in the green room who is commenting more than people that are watching right now. So she's
amazing.
She said, how can I get an autographed copy? And she said, I'm not nice, as in people pleasing nice. I will be human in my capacity of being kind. So she's going to have the floor soon enough. But she is amazing. And she's been commenting along, including not enjoying me showing spiders earlier. So
she had my back on that one. That was not
I don't
nice.
think she likes them either. You know,
who does?
I mean, I don't necessarily like them, but I know I hate snakes more. But that's another story for another day. I want to talk about this thing that I did see that I thought was interesting, which is millennials and Zoomers tend to have high anxiety at the thought of meeting new people and often fumble during in-person relationships. Love for you to talk about, from a cultural and a generational standpoint, this phenomenon. And because, you know, still we try and understand the millennial, the Gen Zer. Why is this happening? Is it because of the phone, social media, Xbox? And what can they do about it? And what can we do about it as parents, as bosses, as colleagues, as mentors, to kind of bring them out of this anxious quicksand, if you will?
Yeah, and it really is quicksand. As you mentioned, they are absolutely the most anxious generations, and it's trending upward as the ages go downward. And, there's a lot of studies around social anxiety. There's a lot of studies around anxiety and social media because that's really where that trajectory started taking off is from the beginning of our immense engagement with social media. And the research shows, because I am such a data nerd, and this was a huge part of my thesis of how social anxiety and social media are interlinked, but it's not necessarily due to use. And I think that's where most people think just because somebody's on their phone all the time, just because they're engaging in social media all the time, doesn't necessarily equate to anxiety. What it does is it equates to anxiety when there's an attachment emotionally to the platforms. And that's where I believe when you are comparing yourself, when you are placing your value in another person's hands, when you're placing your value based on the likes you get, based on the comments, the interactions, that's when it starts to lead to anxiety. That's when it starts to lead to depression. And so what it's really important to do with anyone, it doesn't necessarily just align itself with those generations. I believe that everybody can look at the way that we interact with social media, that we interact with how we feel when we are online. And so making sure that you are buffering yourself, making sure that you're aware of how emotionally you're getting. And also a recent study that I was so mad came out after my book showed that if you have a purpose, if you have a why, it insulates you often in terms of any sort of anxiety around social media. So if you have something that's bigger inside of you that's shining from within, and I call it your then what, you're able to overcome so much of the challenges that social media can create in terms of anxiety.
Oh, I love that. So to move from, maybe everyone always likes to take a riff on start with why, but your new book is going to be, and then move to then what, which
Yes.
is, you can start with why, but then you've got to go to, and then what?
Then what?
And I love the then what because it implies that there is a journey, that there is movement as well. I guess as parents, what can we do to help our kids? To help our kids. As David Ogilvy would have said, and I'm paraphrasing, we should use social media as a lamp, not as a drunk would use a lamppost, but rather as a guiding light. So how do we
Yes. Oh, I just got
use it?
goosebumps.
How do we use it and enjoy it as opposed to it becomes a crutch and a surrogate?
Yeah, that's where when it comes to kids, because they're going to be the most susceptible, they don't understand the difference, and they're not able to recognize the impact. So my daughter's 11. She will not have social media until she's at least 16, because even then, I think it's still dangerous, and that's when it becomes you have to be able to communicate, you have to be able to talk to them, you have to be able to monitor what they're engaging with and how it's affecting them. But for now, it's just not happening. It's just not. I'm not letting her post pictures of herself so that other people can rate her. And so it's really important to just recognize how you can protect, but also how you can educate once they are engaged in it. If you already have a child who is engaged in social media, have conversations and make sure that, to the best of your ability, that you're allowing their self-worth and self-confidence to continue to be nurtured so that they're not holding on to it like a lamppost. I think that's a beautiful way of putting it, and terrifying in a way too, because I think there's a lot of lamppost holders out there.
Right, and thinking about our children as drunk, which is probably not a good thing either. Maybe we're drunk.
All the time.
Exactly. You would have noticed in that clip with John Durham, I am drinking a martini. I want to ask you one final question before we bring on Lady Obsidian Rain. What a beautiful name.
She's my new favorite person in the private chat. Just want to let you know.
And both of you are my new favorite people. I'm not picking favorites tonight. From a business standpoint, right? In the B2B world, or whether we're talking about conferences and networking, getting back on planes and being back in this weird environment with business cards and etc. What's one or two tips or pieces of advice in terms of how to, in that high pressure situation, where there isn't a lot of time, to show our authentic self, to be relatable, and to make hopefully an endearing and you know, I would say an endearing and an enduring connection.
I think two things: intentional baby steps. Intentionality wins all day long. We have to be intentional with our interactions. If you are just going and showing up and winging it, then you're doing yourself a disservice. It's kind of like I use this analogy of, I love Marshalls and TJ Maxx, but if I go in there and I don't know what I'm looking for, I end up buying shampoo, a rug, a chair, and like some candy. If I go into Marshalls or a TJ Maxx, and my lady friends know this, and you see a blue shirt and that's what you're looking for, all of a sudden, all the other blue shirts start sticking out to you. And so intentionality allows your brain to look at things differently and approach things differently. And it's similar to going shopping. So if you are going somewhere and you want to make a connection, set that intention of, I'm going to talk to 3 people. I am going to set the intention to not put my head in my phone. I'm going to set the intention to make eye contact and smile with at least 6 people until they tell me I'm creepy. You know, I'm going to set an intention. And then if it is anxiety producing, which it is for 23 million Americans with social anxiety, take the baby steps. It doesn't have to feel like you're jumping in and now commanding a conversation with an audience. You can just say hi, and then you can progress to the next step from there and allow your brain to recognize that this did not kill you and you can get through this, and you were successful and the response was positive. So intentional baby steps.
Yeah, I love it. Intentional baby steps. And maybe sometimes it's as simple as just saying, I'm going to make 3 meaningful connections. And guess what? If that happens in the first 30 minutes, you're playing with the house's money. You know, relax. Relax and just sit on a chair and continue reading for the second or third time. Relatable. This has been the aspiring poet, relationship expert, Rachel DeAlto. And again, if you want to follow her and of course, why wouldn't you after tonight? You can do that on Instagram, on Twitter, in Clubhouse, on LinkedIn, and of course, last but not least, please go and buy Relatable: How to Connect with Anyone, Anywhere, even if it scares you. James Corden, you'll be hearing from us when I edit that nice little video for you. Rachel, thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight, and hang out in the green room, and we'll see you in a few.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait for Lady Obsidian to get in here and just make some magic.
And nor can I. And she is about to do her thing. But first, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an advocate for wellness using art and social sciences. The poet, Lady Obsidian Rain, is passionate about helping individuals develop healthy identity and self-esteem through creative self-expression and spirituality. A mother of 2, Lady Rain has a passion for nurturing others in the hopes of being a positive impact on the development of future generations. And wait for it, she also put together one of the greatest reels that I've seen. Please watch this. So, okay, I'm taking it off. But I don't think I've ever worn a mask on the show. We met at an undisclosed location. Wait, that makes it sound sordid. You get this beautiful collection, your books, your poetry. In fact, I'm just going to go full screen for a moment so I can show people these 2 beautiful books. my mask, my notebooks. So when I'm coming up with ideas, I love the branding. I love the effort. You are not just multi-talented. You might be the hardest working person in show business. So,
Well, thank you so much for having me. And I love how I related with this entire conversation. Rachel, you are amazing. And so I can't wait to dive into your book. So thank you for having me.
I think we're all going to be sending each other. I mean, unfortunately, the only book I can send both of you is Built to Suck, which just sounds like it's a bronze medal winner behind your books. But it's that part of the show where I disappear and I allow you to do your thing. You are going to perform 2 poems for us, which means Rachel's off the hook. You're going to be performing Peace Doesn't Pay and Hard to Love, and would love for you to take it away, and then we'll bring you back and have a chat.
Okay, thank you. Hello. Thank you so much for being on the show with me. I'm going to perform Peace Doesn't Pay, which is out of my first book, Weathering the Storms. Where do they come from? Why does it seem easier to get guns than it is to get food and health care? Why are funerals so expensive when we all die? Why is rent so high? Why is education so important, but only few get what is capable to elevate? Why are women condemned when their periods come late, if at all? Why are there such high conviction rates against nonviolent offenders? Where is justice when a crime is on videotape? Why are we so divisive when we all share the same organs? Why is there more hate than compassion? This society pays more for steel pieces than peace within hearts. This culture pays more attention to faults than freedom of expression, easily condemning, easily offended. Why are we so quick to paint someone a fool when truth is we can all be foolish? Lusting for power and control. We are controlled by our own insecurities. Fear of being vulnerable, we bully out of fear of not being seen. We settle for negative attention instead of seeking loving connections, hiding away our innocence to avoid corruption. We have been corrupted so much we need medication to restore us to function. Why? Why is status and hierarchy more important than camaraderie? Lies told to perpetuate stains of inferiority. Why, after millennia, are we still living this way? Divide and conquer, haves against the have-nots. They say money can't buy happiness, and assuredly they're right. Because of money, we lose souls to meaningless fights. And it hits me. Society is this way because money reigns and peace doesn't pay. Thank you. That is my ode to society. And At Hard to Love is from my second book, Love After the Eruptions. She said, I'd rather be hard to deal with than be easy to play with. And I could hear it. The sincerity in her voice holding back her annoyance. The memories of doors closing. Resounding arrogance of the voices. Why you gotta be so difficult? As if she hadn't been bent, molded, and broken into a form unrecognizable for the sake of others. As if years of manipulation hadn't fashioned her into a form of strength standing before them now. She had to learn to be like water, soft enough to go with the flow, consistent enough to corrode stones in her way, rained hard to disturb soil, bringing nutrients up. She learned to nourish herself into being enough. Too much so that hands that tried to mishandle her would fumble. She was a woman to love. Somehow easy to leave. Unsure she would believe in the one who stayed. The one who took it as his personal duty to never let her fall in the cracks of insecurities. Projection of others and their miseries. He wanted to be her ever good company. Pour into her as she poured into him so they'd both flourish. He came to her garden knowing it would require work to keep the weeds from growing, keep the pestilence at bay. He had made up his mind to love her every day in every way. holding himself accountable for his fears. He wanted to be the one to be counted on instead of her counting tears. Pain in her heart caused by those incapable of respecting and appreciating her, not just for what, but for who she is, seeing her in her truth. He embraced the fact that she deserved unconditional love. He knew what she needed, a man secure in the strength he embodied. He wanted to be the wings that gave her flight and covered her body, keeping her safe from harm, and they would reign side by side and worlds apart. Distance was nothing to matters of the heart. Only choice, not taken lightly, or else he'd find that she wasn't easy to deal with. She definitely didn't want to be played with. Thank you. Those are my 2 poems. You can find them both on Amazon, or you can connect with me on Instagram for your autographed copies.
Air horn.
So beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I feel I'm just basically intruding here. So I'm gonna let you guys talk for a couple of minutes, and then I'll be.
Oh my gosh. I just texted in the back chat. I was like, oh, my heart, like your emotions come through so clearly, and you're just with you on that journey. And it was vulnerable and beautiful and amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. And literally, as I'm listening to like the conversation, I was like, I love how everything just works together, because I'm definitely on the same understanding that you can really relate to anybody when you are aware of yourself and not afraid to show who you are. And, you know, I actually have another poem called Masked World, and it's talking about like the fact that we all wear like these facades, we all wear these faces that we go out into public with because we want to be accepted. We, you know, want to be seen in a particular light, because society says that if you don't meet this particular standard, you're of no particular value to them. So I loved your book.
I would love to read that.
I would love to read your book and get more into that. It's relatable.
Well, I would love to read the rest of your poetry. All right, we're done. We're done with our love fest. Are you?
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, Arthur Clemente said, "Wow," and you know, something struck me as you were talking, Lady Rain, that you spoke about how everything kind of came together and was connected. Some of it is by design, and some of it is through you guys. Fanzo, for example, me saying to Fanzo, "Why don't you do it live tonight?" That was by design. Mm-hmm. Him connecting back to Rachel with the book, etc., was his design. Your brand, the brand and everything behind the concept of Bloom, you making the effort to almost, to physically put these books into my hand. Effort. These things don't just happen, but they are by design, and there is effort, and often that effort is in the background. Everything I do, I didn't put the two of you together. But the thing that I realized, the quote that I pulled, the different strings that I was able to pull to a degree, but we can find that red thread. We can find that relatable red thread if we try hard enough, if we work hard enough, if we actually take the time, put in the effort and energy, we'll make that connection each and every time. That's what I believe.
Absolutely. It's the
Completely
effort.
agree.
Effort makes the difference.
So, to me, the show brought so many things and connected, so many dots. And I have to say, personally, it's just a joy to this moment. The three of us together is almost become my favorite part of the entire show. Three strangers before tonight, and now friends. And although I don't really need any more friends.
Where do you live again? We'll find you.
You're just gonna show up on your doorstep.
Well, guess what? Lady Rain and I live in the same state. So
yeah,
there.
exactly. I will find you. I'm East Coast.
Oh, does he? Road trip.
I think there's a reunion show coming up. Glenn said great show. Lady Rain, let me ask you one question, and then we'll let Rachel have the final, well, the second final word. We'll let you have the final word, which is, tell us a little bit about Bloom, about the brand, the branding, and what that means to you and why it's important.
Honestly, part of my healing process, the flower that really resonated most with me was the lotus. The fact that this is this beautiful flower that blooms out of mud. And if you notice, like, there's like a painting back there is a lotus flower. I have, a lotus flower ring. So it's more just like, no matter the circumstances of what you go through in life, you have the ability to bloom in spite of it. So like, it's actually a two-part phrase. It's like, bloom in spite of everything, rise to become anything. And it's, blooming for adults who have gone through things and, have to heal from it. And then, even so much down to our children, allowing them to know that they can rise and become, whatever they need to be to overcome like their life challenges, to say. So that's really how that kind of came about. It was, it's owed from my healing and extending it to others to know that they can bloom in spite of all of their circumstances.
There's your lotus flower from Rihanna Bennett over there. You have a lot of friends and a lot of fans. Rachel, I want to see if you have a question, a comment, or just give you a final word as well. I think we're all completely sold on not just relatability, but on you as well. And I feel like this message and this book has come at the right time to be part of this healing that we all need so desperately.
Yes.
And that would be my final message, is that everybody is capable and everybody is deserving.
Absolutely.
And Lady Rain, the second almost second last, almost the final word is yours.
I would say to everybody watching now, watching the playback, no matter the distance, the status, the color, or creed, you are worthy of being loved unconditionally. That is me.
Beautiful words. And, someone who has that exact same sentiment, of course, is Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And I will be back tomorrow with Elaine Powell, Rachel, Lady Rain. Thank you so much for a really very, very, very special evening. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.